Hi beautiful souls, welcome back to my channel. Today we're diving into the Six of Pentacles in the reverse, and this is a card that's so often simplified as imbalance or overgiving, over receiving, unfairness. And while those meanings are certainly present, one of the deeper kind of aspects of this card happens in this kind of invisible exchange that we all experience on a daily basis. So because the Six of Pentacles isn't really about physical coins, it's more about value. It's about our energy, our power. It's about the relationships that are created every time we give or receive something. And one of the most fascinating questions this card brought up for me personally, and I think is one of the most fascinating questions when it comes reversed, is what is the price of receiving something that isn't truly free? For example, a gift or a favor. Like every gift creates a connection, and every favor creates an energy exchange. Every act of rescue kind of changes the balance between two people, changes the power dynamic. And when this card appears reversed, it invites us to ask whether the balance has quietly shifted. Perhaps someone has been incredibly generous with you, but somewhere beneath that generosity is unspoken expectation. And maybe they expect your time, your loyalty, your emotional availability. Maybe they expect your admiration or expect you to agree with them, your agreement. Maybe it's just simply that they expect continued access to you. And the gift may have been genuine at first, but over time it has kind of become leverage. And both parties have a role to play in this, because sometimes it's our perception of receiving that creates that obligation. And maybe the giver never really implied obligation or didn't see it that way, but your own personal experience and belief systems are creating this obligation within the relationship as the receiver. And the Six of Pentacles reverse asks us gently to ask, is this generosity or is it power? Sometimes people give because they truly want to help, and sometimes people give because it's coming from a place, it puts them in a place of authority in the relationship. So it kind of allows them to remain the rescuer and be needed, and someone else needs to stay in the role of being needed and being rescued. Not being needed, being needy and being rescued. And this is when the scales are no longer balanced. The relationship quietly shifts from equality into hierarchy, and without even realizing it, one person begins to hold the power. But this card isn't only about people who give. It's also about the struggle of receiving. And I think a lot of us have learned somewhere along the line on our journeys that accepting help always comes with strings or attachments. Maybe you've experienced kindness that later became guilt. This is my own personal experience and a dynamic that I'm trying to navigate with my grandmother, because, you know, she's 90 years old. They didn't have the resources and self-awareness that a lot of us have today. And she did create a dynamic with me and her that was quite codependent, and she gave me a lot more than she gave my brother. And the reason being was because she got more out of me than she did with my brother. I was the people pleaser and my brother did the fighting. So our nervous system responses to our childhood situation, which was quite traumatic, was so different. And with the people pleaser me, she was able to give me gifts and use that as leverage, use, you know, financial support and emotional support, kind of, but more financial support and gift giving as leverage for my my attention and my kind of what would the word be, obedience. Where my brother did the fighting, and so he wasn't given as much, and especially financial support and gifting, and it created already then a huge guilt thing, that I had felt so guilty that my brother wasn't receiving the same amount of attention and wouldn't say love, but monetary kind of gifts as I was from her. And then it obviously also created this dynamic where I felt obliged, and obligation. If obligation exists in a dynamic, love cannot exist. It blocks the love from existing. So they're completely different vibrations. And if you're vibrating from a level of obligation, you're not loving. So firstly, you are doing something that you don't want to do. So you're not being loving towards yourself. And if you're not being loving towards yourself, you can't possibly extend that vibration outwards to the people around you and to your loved ones. So yeah, so sometimes the support can become control, and sometimes the love can become obligation. And if that has been your experience, it's understandable that receiving can feel uncomfortable. And this may play out like you insisting on doing everything yourself, becoming hyper independent, because independence feels better than indebtedness. And the Six of Pentacles reversed asks us whether we are protecting ourselves from the present, or is it from the past? One of my favorite ways to view this card is through the lens of energy. Energy and power, same thing. And so you can ask yourself, where are your energy leaks? Who assumes that they have unlimited access to your time just because they've helped you before? And where are you overgiving because you're afraid of disappointing someone? Classic people pleaser. Where are you saying yes when your heart quietly wants to say no? Perhaps where are you accepting less than you're worth? Simply maybe because someone has handed you an opportunity and you are grateful for it. And so you want to say yes, but you know you're worth more. And doesn't mean that you can't be grateful and know your worth. And these are subtle imbalances that this card shines a light upon. So yeah, so gently ask yourself some of these questions. You know, spiritually, the Six of Pentacles reminds us that life is built on reciprocity. Nature never clings. You know, a tree receives sunlight and gives off oxygen. Clouds gather water and release rain. The river returns to the ocean and the cycle begins again. Everything moves in relationship. Everything flows. When energy only travels in one direction, whether we're endlessly giving or endlessly taking, something eventually becomes depleted. And this card invites us back into these natural rhythms, this natural flow. So not keeping score, not giving from guilt, not receiving from fear, but allowing generosity to move freely between people without obligation or manipulation or these silent contracts. And so today I invite you to sit with some of these questions. Where in life have you mistaken obligation for generosity? Where have you confused guilt with kindness? Where are you ready to restore balance? Because perhaps the greatest lesson of this card in the reverse is this: true generosity never asks you to surrender your freedom. Real kindness doesn't keep receipts, and the healthiest relationships are never measured by whom owes who, They're built on mutual respect and trust, and a willingness to both give and receive with an open heart. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If this reading resonated with you, I'd love to hear about your thoughts and perspective in the comments. And your story might help someone else feel less alone. So please do share. I love hearing from you guys. And yeah, like and subscribe if you don't want to misread from me. Until next time, take care of yourself, trust your intuition, and remember, sometimes the most valuable thing we can receive is the freedom to simply be ourselves. And this is a gift you can give yourself, permission to just be you. That is one of the most loving things you can do for you. And when you love yourself, that love extends in all directions, to all the people around you, to random strangers. So change the world by being yourself. Much love.